Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it.
Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. We're in for a real treat today. I've got my friend Reed Goossens on the line, and Reed's been on the show before. He's an Aussie. I have no idea what the hell that means, Reed. But anyway, we can blast you later. But Reed's a podcaster. He's a best-selling author. He's got 2,000 doors. Just all-around great guy. Welcome to the show again, buddy.
G'day, mate. Yeah, well, look, thanks for having me back. I know it's good to see you virtually after this really weird time, right?
Right. Yeah, everything's virtual. It's a little crazy. So by the time this airs, we'll have had my live stream event. So, knock on wood. We even have in our announcements, hey, this is new tech. If there's some speed bumps, be patient and be nice. Don't kick our butts. But anyway, so welcome back, brother. Why don't you take a minute, because it's been a long time since I've had you on the show.
Sure.
Take a minute and talk about your background, because it's very interesting.
Yes.
And then we'll just take this conversation wherever we want to go. We'll have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Look, for those people who haven't heard, I'm sure you can rewind whatever the episode was. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago that I was on the show. So,
long time.
The quick elevator pitch. Moved to the United States in 2012 to chase a dream. To really just to live as an expat in New York City. I really love New York City. I still do. I don't live there anymore, but I now live in LA with my wife. But I was chasing her at the time as well. So I came to the United States. I didn't have a job. Moved here, found a job as a structural engineer, and I went door knocking to every single engineering joint that I thought didn't have HR, because without the HR component, with the less than 50 employees, they wouldn't have HR, and they wouldn't see that I was educated in a foreign country, so they wouldn't throw my resume out the window. So got a job. Quickly started, I'd already had the bug for real estate investing prior to moving to the United States. Picked up the book Rich Dad Poor Dad back in 2009. Really have an inner burning to be my own boss and not to sit in a cubicle. But I also had a burning to live in the United States. And so made the decision to uproot my life, move to the United States, had no job, no established network, sort of boots on the ground. And then it was a rough time for the first 6 months, trying to find a housing and jobs and in a new relationship and all that sort of stuff. But got through it, and then quickly realized that how incredible the United States was for investment opportunities first and foremost, but also just the educational resources out there. I think I was at my first RIA event within the first 2 weeks.
That's a RIA event for those.
RIA, yeah, Real Estate Investor Association, and I think within 6 months of moving to the United States, I'd purchased my first triplex all cash, because I didn't know what a credit score was. I didn't have credit. I didn't know what an LLC was. Wow. And over the last 8 years, I've worked extremely hard. Finally, quit my W-2 job in 2017 because I got my green card. I had the visa issues as well, guys. For those people who are listening. And we got married, and I built 2,000 units with my business partner, Andrew Campbell, at Wildhorn Capital, achieved financial freedom. And my whole shtick for anyone out there is like, if I can do it moving halfway across the world, then so can you. So that's really the elevator pitch.
Yeah. Reed's also got a podcast. It's called Investing in the U.S. And he's written a couple of books. One of the books is the same title, Investing in the U.S. And then another one for really kind of, I think, for expats, which is 10,000 Miles to the American Dream, and both bestsellers. So Reed, I'll tell you what, let's talk about getting started as it relates to, you've got your partner, getting started as it relates to, let's kind of walk through the sequence of getting into this business. So how did you select your market? Let's start there.
Yeah. So if you break it up in terms of just, the first ever deal I did, that triplex, was the selection of the market was literally I could get on a Greyhound bus from New York City, and I could afford it. It was a 4-hour driveway. That was it. That was all it was. So that was the start of it. And really, when people ask about raising capital and doing all that good stuff, my advice to everyone is, go out and run a little bit, and maybe do some smaller deals by yourselves to give you the confidence to then give yourself the permission to go off and do more. So I really recommend that for a period of time. it wasn't until back in 2013 when I had a very influential conversation with a good friend of mine that it opened my eyes to the bigger world of syndication, other people's money, scaling the business. Right, that's really what we're at. We can all go do triplexes and duplexes till the cows come home, but you want to go and amplify this to do 50, 60, 100, 200 units. And now we've done 2,000 units in the last 4 or 5 years. So that mindset shift is massive, right? And how do you go and give yourself permission to go do that? Well, if you haven't done any bloody deals, it's going to be very hard to go do that. But what you have to do at the same time is you have to sort of be nearly riding or turning two different spokes. One spoke is the deal flow. You've got to be underwriting deals, choosing markets, analyzing the best deals you can in the chosen markets that you're doing. The other spoke is, well, I've got to be finding investors and pitching to investors and creating pitch decks and making sure I'm getting in front of.
Let's talk about both those, if you don't mind. Let's drill down on those.
Sure.
So what markets are you in now? You're in several, I think, aren't you?
Not at several. Two major markets, which are Austin, Texas, and San Antonio, Texas. We started in San Antonio and then moved up to Austin. And the reason, so I moved to, I live in LA. My office is here in Hermosa Beach, a beautiful part of the world. But the reason I chose those markets was really from the affordability component of it. Also the influx of population. From a macro point of view, I've come from a country where supply and demand is very similar to most coastal markets here in the United States. You've got high demand but low supply. And I saw trends like that starting to occur in places like Austin, Texas specifically, and a little bit in San Antonio.
Definitely in Austin, yeah.
So when you're doing that, when the demand is high but the supply is low, buying existing assets and a barrier to entry for new product, which I mean, when I say barrier to entry, I mean like, okay, how long is the planning approval going to take? How much is construction? How long is construction going to take? Like all these things that are barriers to the market for new product. Buying existing product means we're going to do just fine over the long term. And so that's our investment thesis now, today, in 2020, and has been for the last two or 3 years.
So your first deal.
Yep.
Sorry. I interrupted you again. I apologize. Forgive me.
No.
Your first deal. Did you already have a team put together? I'm not talking about the triplex. I'm talking about your first syndication that you raised money for. Did you already have your partner then? Did you do it on your own? Can we go back and just talk about that a little bit?
So the first deal I did, and back to that conversation I had with my friend about OPM and other people's money, the key element of that is he, I said, he came, the story goes, he came down from Canada. He's a good mate of mine. And I was boasting to him about my little duplexes and triplexes I had in upstate New York. And he turns around and says, "Hey, Reed, I just closed on a 70 unit deal." And I said, 70? And he said, "Yes, 70. And I said, "How the hell did you do that?" He said, "Mentor other people's money, raising money from my friends and family." I said, "Okay, got it. Okay, I need to go out and get a mentor." So went out and got a mentor. And through that mentor, I was able to learn a little bit. But then when I moved to LA, I met a gentleman who was very influential, or not influential in the fact my growth, but he had found a really great deal in Houston, Texas. He came to me, we became friends, and he said, "Hey, Reed, I've got this great deal, but I don't know how to raise money." And I said, "Well, I've got this mentor apparently who can raise some money. Like you guys should connect, and let's connect." And they've gone off to build a huge company on themselves. And that was really what the first deal was. It was through meeting someone else, and he actually met him through a meetup group that I started here in LA for other real estate investors. So I put myself out there. I didn't have a lot of experience at the time. Just happened to meet him, kismet. It was kismet that I met him. And then he was working for another real estate investment firm that was buying multifamily in secondary markets like Houston. And he was an underwriter for them and an asset manager. And he sort of had a bit of a deal flow. And he just saw this deal that came across his table, 250 unit deal. It was a 7 cap it was built in 2000. So it was a really hot deal. And at the time in 2014, 2015, there was blood in the streets in Houston. So that you could pick up those types of deals. And really just through, at the time, my confidence was, I didn't know if I could raise any money. I was like, hey, my mentor could. And I went to my mentor and he said, "Oh, I don't know if I really want to do this deal. Like, thanks for introducing me, but no thanks." And then I went back to my mate and he said, "Look, I don't think he's interested." So I had to go and he's like, "Can you ask again?" And so I went and asked again and I pushed, and through that pushing, got him on board, got some other people on board as well. And it was really just a combination of doing whatever you can to get.
How much was that first raise?
Like $3.5 million.
No, that's a big one for number one. Wow.
Well, Well, and let's I'll put my hand up. It was not. I did a very small portion of that. I was just I was just the glue to help ignite that introduction.
Put the people together. Got it.
Pull the people together.
Listen, guys, that's a great way to start in this business. Some of the most successful people I know, I call them super networkers, and I would consider you one, Reed, for sure. And I hope you're getting the clues here, guys. He started his own meetup. In today's day and age, there's so many free or practically free ways to build reach through Meetup, through Facebook, through Instagram, LinkedIn. My wife just told me I should have TikTok on the list. I have no clue what the hell that is. Whatever. There's so many ways to build reach. I said LinkedIn already. Anyway, so Meetup is certainly one of them. But that's awesome. Now. So let me ask you this question. I just had these three, I want to call them kids. I'm 60, so I can call them kids. They were all in their 20s on the show all together. It was an episode called Young Rock Stars or Young something like that. Anyway, what was interesting was all three of them had partnerships, and they had more of an outgoing personality with more of an analytical personality. But in your case, you're both. You're already an engineer, and you're definitely outgoing. Is your partner more analytical or?
No, I am the analytical one. I'm the one who I oversee. Or in today's, if we now fast forward to 2020, I actually don't. I love doing this. It's become a part of my DNA to do this stuff and grow my outgoingness. But actually, my business partner focuses a lot on the capital raising, and a lot on the finding the deals. What the analogy I use is he shakes the lemon tree. I determine if we make lemonade or lemon juice. So
love it. Now, I see that combination. So it's the exact same dynamic. I see that combination in hugely successful partnerships day in and day out. I'm an example. Robert's the analytical. He's a CPA, done $1 billion worth of commercial deals. He's the analytical side, and I'm the mouthpiece. So it works really well.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you can if you're not good at, say, the analytical piece, it's very easy in today's world. And a piece of advice for all those folks out there trying to chase deals, the thing that I realized when I was grinding hard at my day job, I was working for a big developer here in Los Angeles, working big hours, trying to have a life, but also trying to get deals underwritten. And I'm talking 50 to 60 unit deals. This was back in after I did that 250 with my mentor, I started to break out and do stuff on my own. But what I quickly realized is that I was a bottleneck. I couldn't, as the analytical guy, and developed my own spreadsheets, my own underwriting processes, I needed to get the hell out of my own way. And so what I did was I went to USC. I had a mate at USC who had been an alumni at USC that I could post on their job board. I needed 2 undergrad analysts, and I'd pay them $15 an hour, and they would do 2 or 3 deals a week. And that that little system there, and this is advice to those people who aren't analytical and they need to get the hell out of their own way, is build the systems that will support you to be successful. Because that is the most important part about realizing that as the entrepreneur, you can sometimes be the bottleneck. So,
listen, every CEO is the bottleneck. There's no question I'm the bottleneck in my organization. I have been ever since I've had an organization. I've built 24 businesses, and I was the bottleneck in every single one of them. But one thing you said, and I want to hammer home for you guys listening, every business is nothing but people and systems. And so what he just said really is very illuminating, because you need to set up the systems. That happens to be one of my superpowers as well, is setting up systems. And, there's a great book about the topic called E-Myth by Michael Gerber, by basically McDonaldizing your business so that, just read it. It's a great book. So you set up the systems. When did you line up with your partner? Was that back then or before?
Yeah, so there was a period of time where I had little systems set up, at least getting deals underwritten well, still working full time, still trying to have a life and all that good stuff. Getting into best and final on these sort of 50 and 70 unit deals in Dallas, Fort Worth. But the problem was I didn't have the broker relationships. And every time I was getting on these best and final calls, so clearly my underwriting was good. Clearly they saw something. But as soon as I started to get that relationship, I was losing out a $5 or $6 million deal by $30,000 or $40,000 because I wasn't getting the answers to the test because I didn't have that broker relationships. And I was losing deals to other folks who we probably all know in the industry, to their students. And so I was like, I need to do something different here. I need a business partner that's boots on the ground. And that's when the second epiphany came. I was like, yeah, need, again, you're in your own way. You need to just focus on your systems building and underwriting and management, because that's where I come from. I'm a structural engineer. I've built $500 million worth of infrastructure across the globe. I built stuff for the London 2012 Olympic Games back in the day. I built projects here in LA. So I come from that institutional construction management, project management mindset. Focus on that, and let someone else, i.e. a business partner, worry about shaking the lemon tree I just spoke about. And so, again, another meeting through friends of friends. I met Andrew Campbell. He's a little bit older than me, but sort of in his 30s, hustler like I am. He was working full time as well. We knew he was looking at deals. He lived in Austin, Texas, but he was looking at deals in San Antonio. He was asking me about my advice. He wasn't the detail-orientated guy like I was. And again, instantly through a couple of months of courting one another, and I'd been in partnerships before, you sort of got the sense that this is going to go somewhere. And so, yeah, we have the most important thing is that we had complementary skill sets. He had a superpower of being boots on the ground, and I had a superpower of building systems and had already had the little underwriting team going, plus my background. So it was just sort of, it was a match made in heaven, and we've gone on to build quite a nice little portfolio.
Love it. Listen, something you said, I want to give you a resource. And a lot of partnerships don't make it because they're easy to get into, like a marriage, and very difficult to get out of. And it's so critical to ask all the hard questions up front. And I've created a resource that I will give you guys for free. It's a list of questions you should ask if you're considering getting into a partnership. Just text the word partnership to 41411, and I'll get you a copy of that. Again, that's partnership to 41411. I want to take just a second to let our sponsor talk for a second.
Rob, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411.
Okay, we're back. So we talked about systems. We talked about team. You're the analytical piece of the team, which has shocked me. I would not have guessed that, by the way. Let's see. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that comes up regularly these last few weeks, because we're in a different world right now. It is a completely different world. So let's talk about COVID. And I know before we started recording, you said you're in the 90s as far as your collections, but this is April and May's coming, and I think May and June we're going to see some pain as in the industry. But talk about what some of the things you've been doing, thoughts you might have. Let's just kind of riff on this a little bit.
Yeah. So obviously, when the whole stuff hit the fan, I won't need to swear, but when it hit the fan in late or mid-March, it was a very quick reaction from myself and my property management team to make sure that our staff and our tenants are safe. So we implemented very quickly. We shut down the leasing center, we shut down the amenities, and we put in protocols about how work orders would be handled from the on-site team. So that was all taken care of pretty quickly. We then needed to pivot very quickly to, okay, what about collections? People are going to have uncertainty around this, and uncertainty drives really we're now in a recession. When people are uncertain about something, they're going to hold their chips closer to their chest.
They're paralyzed.
They're paralyzed. The reptilian brain just takes over, right? They want to fight or flight. So We had to make sure that we had payment plans put in place, flyers go out to the tenants to make sure that they knew where they could apply for rental assistance if they needed to be, but also looking at our demographics within each asset to understand what is coming down the line. How many people may skip? How many people may skip rent or can't afford rent? So when we sent out that email to the tenants, we had, each asset was different. We had people reach out and say, "Hey, thank you for the information. I'm just putting my hand up. I can pay April, but I might have an issue paying May." And so we've documented all those folks. We've had conversations over the last couple of weeks, and it's actually boiled down to when we, in early April, we thought, okay, we're going to be around 90% collected. It actually is bumped up to now 97% collected across the portfolio. And it's because we tried to lead with education first with the tenants, that their safety is important, but also that we want to not kick them out. We're not a bad landlord. We want, if you've been a good paying tenant, this whole COVID is not your fault, and you've lost a job based on that. We're not going to punish you. We want to work with you. So coming into the end of April, the payment plan was just for the month of April. We have a few folks who are going to be spilling over and have an existing debt for the remaining months. We are working with those folks and putting in another payment plan. But overall, we determined that there was about 10% of our portfolio in terms of renter base was in the really susceptible servers, construction. Yeah. We had to go and determine what that was, because 1,900 units is a lot of mouths to feed.
Right.
And so that's really what we've done on the operations side. And then as we've gone out to our investors, we've had to explain, give them a lot of information, over communicate, and through that they've been able to take solace that we know we're on top of our game. We have paused distributions now. Immediately, our first distribution for 2020 was going to come out in actually early April, but the fact is, now COVID didn't affect operations in Q1, but the uncertainty, back to that uncertainty piece I was talking about earlier, we decided to keep cash. We've stopped all construction projects unless something needed just to be finished, like a leasing center or whatever. So all of that is to conserve cash and make sure that we're doing the right thing. The third thing I did was I reached out to all my lenders at the end of March and say, "Hey, nothing's an issue right now. I don't know if it will be, but I want to have a conversation." And let's just start there. And what we end up boiling down to is let's just move all the ACH payments for each month to the 9th, the 10th, in order, because when rent is due on the 4th, I can have a bit of a better line of sight to whether we're going to make them, the mortgage distributions or mortgage payments by the 10th. And it turned out that we're fine. Now, as we come into May and June, not sure if that's going to change. Hopefully it doesn't change. But again, having those conversations with the key people in our team, the brokers, the investors, our tenants, our property management team, our construction team, making sure everyone's aware of where we're going and where the North Star is in order to give certainty to everyone involved. That is the most important thing as you manage an asset. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I said exactly the same things 6 weeks ago. Over communicate right now with the tenants, with the lenders, with the proactively seek out the lenders. You've done everything right.
Right.
Perfectly, actually, and pausing distributions. We didn't do that, but we have, just because we have big operating reserves, but it is very prudent to do that right now. And definitely we're halting CapEx right now, no question, holding on to that revenue. But that proactive over communication makes all the difference in the world. Letting your residents know you care about them, critical. Love it. Let me ask you some more global questions that I love to ask that I may have asked you last time. Forgive me if I did, but what type of person do you think is best suited for this multifamily business, if there is one? Or what are the traits or superpowers that you think lend themselves to being an operator in the multifamily space?
I think to be an operator in any business, and not just multifamily, but we specifically talked about multifamily, is you've got to be a problem solver. You've got to think laterally. You've got to think outside the box. There's going to be speed bumps along the way, and there's going to be road blockages that you have to navigate around. And that's part of having a business. It's part of life. But understanding that you're not going to lose, you're not going to panic, you're not going to lose, you're not going to stress, you're not going to yell, you're not going to let it get out of control. So being a problem solver first and foremost, I think, is a really, really good superpower that you need to have when getting involved in this business, and a level head, because, back to concerns about where we're headed, having a level head and leading with a level head gives everyone else in the team the assurance that you know what you're doing. And that's super important.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. And guys, anytime you're looking at it, you're in acquisition mode. I will tell you, the people that can solve the problems on an asset are hugely successful, that look at it with that eye, because they see things other people don't see. The other people see the hair on the deal. They see an opportunity by fixing a problem. So that's really sound advice. Let me ask you this. Can you think back to a setback or a failure that positioned you? It doesn't have to be in the real estate space if it doesn't apply, but that positions you for future success. A setback, a failure, you got your butt kicked with something.
Yeah. Look, I get this question a lot. And I also get people coming up to me and with the whole mindset of, I wish I'd done, the old Chinese proverb of planting a tree 20 years ago, the next best time down. I never look at setbacks or quote unquote failures as setbacks. I look at them as lessons, and you have to look at that, because my first deal, that triplex I spoke about in upstate New York, I had a drive-by shooting at that place. I learned very quickly what Section 8 housing was as a fresh-faced, bushy-tailed Australian, realizing what the ghetto was, and realizing that the reason the property's worth $38,000 is for a reason, right? So, and that was the first deal. Now, if I had never if that was going to set me back, and I'll more than admit that was just one little setback, and it had nothing to do with any of our tenants, but it's still, rocks you a little bit, and you got to get up off the ground, got to dust your knees off and get back on the horse, because there will be some stumbles along the way. I flipped a house in Philadelphia, which was I think my third or fourth deal that I did before I was getting really into the big multifamily. And we had the general contractor. He stole all our products. We had to take him to court. His brother ended up in jail. There was a whole screw around. It ended up taking 6 months longer, and we're eating interest reserve payments. And lucky it was only my dad had invested in the deal, but I'd promised my dad a certain return, and I dipped into my pocket to make sure that happened. Again, these are early on deals that you learn, and this is from a background of building big infrastructure and understanding how to put in contracts. But the unknowns of just people and managing people can sometimes bite in the butt. But you've got to understand that sort of level-headedness has got to be like, well, okay, I know in myself that I did everything I can to try to make this deal successful. I've communicated to, at the time, whoever was involved in the deal, and I'm willing to dip into my own pocket to make people, if they needed to be, no one lost their money, but I dipped into my pocket to make sure they got the return that I promised them. And that's the most important thing. So integrity to me is really super important. And you don't build integrity until you've had a few little trips and failures along the way, or lessons, as we like to say. So I hopefully that answered the question.
That actually, honestly, that's actually when you show your integrity is when you have speed bumps. It's what you do when no one's looking. That's our number one core value, actually. Our core values are the acronym FAMILY, but the I in family is integrity, and that was actually the number one we selected as a team. No, I love it. So another question I'm sure you get all the time is, if you went back, you're in you're almost 40, are you, or 35?
No, I've just turned 34.
34. Wow, you're younger than I thought you were. I thought you were older than that. Okay, your maturity level is very high. So your communication style threw me off. Now let me ask you this: if you went back to tell your 20-year-old Reed Goossens what you would know now about investing in real estate, what might you do differently?
I don't, honestly, Rod, and I don't say this to brag, but I say it in the past. Everything that has happened in my growth, and I go back to the analogy of Tony Robbins. You can overestimate what you can achieve in a year, but you can underestimate what you can achieve in a decade. I never thought moving to the United States that I would be sitting here talking to you about nearly 2,000 years. Never in my wildest dreams. And that happened. And I picked that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, over 10 years ago. So really, that journey, there's been ups and downs, and there's been times where it's been dark, and I'll be the first one to admit it. But you also got to enjoy it along the way, right? Along that journey, I've had personal loss. My mother died 2 years ago. I wish I was at a financial state that I'm in today that I was back then, and I could have spent more time with her back in Australia. So there's been issues along the way from a personal point of view that I've learned, but I've also had to realize that this is a journey. And if you're so focused on what the goal is and not actually enjoying the today, the ins and outs, and the journey, you're going to miss it. And life's going to pass you by like that, and things can happen that you will regret. And so there's not one thing that I would say to myself. It would just be like, enjoy the journey a little bit more, and life's going to be great. Because I know now, Rod, the last 10 years have been freaking awesome. I know the next 10 years are going to be even better, and I don't need to worry about what's going to happen in 10 years because I know that I've backed myself to get to this point. I know I have it within me to get to wherever I'm going the next 10 years.
That is really, really profound advice that you just said, Reed. I got to tell you, because I tell my story at my live events, and how I, made and lost $50 million. Now I'm back to success again. But and then here's what I say on stage. So I'll share it with you. So
Sure.
I say, I'm an expert at making money in real estate. I'm an expert at teaching others on how to make money in real estate. I'm an expert at teaching the systems to set up real estate, but anybody can do that. What the difference with me is I don't let you lose sight of your children, your family, your soul. And so what you just said really resonated with me, brother. It's so freaking important. And guys, those of you listening, you must celebrate the progress every single day consciously, because the happiness doesn't come from the goal. I talk about, building this $8 million house on the beach, and within 2 months of moving in, I was depressed. It's never about the goals. It's about that continual progress and growth, because that equals happiness. So really
100%.
glad that you brought that up, brother. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest reason people fail in this business?
Oh, number one thing is mindset on the front end. Going into this business, the analogy of Tony Robbins, overestimate what you can achieve in a year, underestimate what you can achieve in a decade. Give it time, right? It doesn't happen overnight. People getting into this game thinking you're going to get rich quick, you're not. Real estate is inherently a long-term play. It is planting seeds, and those seeds will hopefully one day sprout into big oak trees. But how long does an oak tree take to grow? 10 years, a decade, longer. You have to have that mindset going in, because if you have a mindset of, I'm going to get there in 12 months, and then you get to the end of 12 months, your likelihood of failing or giving up is a lot higher than you say, well, I'm going to go in with a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and that's okay that it's going to take that long. I don't need to compare myself to anyone else. I don't need to run anyone else's race. I need to run my own race. And that is the most important thing when you're coming to why people will fail, because they're too busy looking at other people, running other people's races for them, comparing themselves to one another, and not focusing on the fact that I've got my things going on. I've got my own personal stuff. And it's going to be a challenge to get through it, and it will take time. And it's slowly building those building blocks in the foundation to get towards where you're going. So the number one thing is mindset on the front end.
No question. Yeah, no, I mean, that's my whole messaging. 80 to 90% of this is mindset. The 10 to 20%, real estate, entrepreneurship, business development, well, all that stuff's the mechanical stuff. What's the best advice you've ever gotten in this business, Reed?
The best advice is actually from my dad. The best advice was, a fool and their money are easily parted. Don't be a fool. And what does that mean? You can mean anything to anyone, right? And for me, if I'm not going to be a fool, how do I look like a fool? Well, if I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I need to go read about it, or I need to go to get educated about it. So really leading with education, and always continuing to know that you're humble enough that you're not going to know everything, and that's okay. And you're going to continue learning. Back to the journey story. I'm a continual student of life, and I want to continue to learn and have that hunger to learn, because I don't ever want to get to the point to say, I know it all, because then you get your head stuck in the clouds and things go wrong. So that's why it's always important to be a fool and their money are easily parted. And that saying can apply to any stage of whether you built a business like yourself, Rod, you built a business, and then something could have happened that you completely sideswiped, and you might have been a fool at the time. You know what I mean? Like it can apply to any stage of the business growth, but really starting out with being educated and continuing to want to learn as you grow. And I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, no question. And I didn't go to college. I didn't have much of an education, but I've gone. In fact, I'll show you a picture here, Reed, real quick. And those on YouTube can see this. You can't see it on iTunes, but it's a picture of me, because I collected the lanyards from my boot camps for a long time, and I put them on my arms. Can you see that, Reed?
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
That is incredible.
Must be like 200 lanyards.
Wow, there's a lot there.
From events that I've gone to. That's my education. There's probably somewhere between, I don't know, $300,000 to $500,000 worth of education there. But anyway, I did that just recently, and I got a lot of fun out of doing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, but so Are there any quotes that you really like what motivates you? What juices you?
What motivates
got
me?
Quotes on the wall here. Are there any things that you really like that help you stay juiced and focused on what you want instead of what you don't?
Yeah. So here's one thing I'll say to you, to Rod, is that for the longest period of time, pretty much the majority of my time that I've spent the last 8 years in the United States, my North Star was achieving financial freedom and working for myself. That was my North Star. Along the way, I've had personal loss, and I question myself, well, what am I doing here, chasing this dream, and feeling very guilty about the whole process. And now that I've got to the point where I am my own boss, I run teams, I'm running this great portfolio, I now get to the point where I'm like, well, what's the new North Star? I'm 34 years of age, and I don't necessarily have a massive answer for that right now, but I'm okay with that because I'm still developing myself as an entrepreneur. But understanding, back to your point of we spoke about earlier about the pillars in life and business just being one of those pillars, but having family and health and wealth and having fun and enjoying the journey, because you see so many people who just their whole self-esteem is based on their wealth and their business. And if that goes away, the only way you're going is down, right? So you're not supported by family or your health or enjoyment in life. And I think so gratitude is really something that makes me move forward. In terms of what just, my whole shtick when I moved to the United States was the fear of regret. And I never want to have to look back at my life and go, geez, I wish I'd done X, Y, Z. So what makes me tick is I want to go and challenge myself every day to be uncomfortable, be comfortable getting uncomfortable, and continue doing and let the path just roll out in front of me and see where it takes me. So
I love that. Guys, those of you listening, don't fear failure. I've had 24 businesses. I call them seminars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars. None of them were as big as the $50 million one in 2008, but 3 or 4 were worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars. But don't be afraid of failure. Be afraid of being in the same freaking place you are a year from now, unless you love where you are right now. Super love it. But if you don't, be afraid of that. I love that. Don't fear regret, man. That is awesome. So, boy, this has been a lot of fun for me. So what else do I want to ask you? Doggone it. So what are you doing? Do you feel like there are opportunities coming? I heard Jay Abraham use the term ethical opportunism. I just love that. I've been spouting that out all over the place. Keeping your integrity, our number one core value for both of us, but we know there's going to be opportunity out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
I saw
it at 9, 10, and 11, but.
Yeah, well, I guess, turning the tables a little bit, like I'm sure you've gone through, you've got the gray hairs that we all wish we have, like I've definitely developed gray hairs in the last little while through building a business, but I'm definitely looking forward to what the future holds. I'm interested in the psyche. We spoke about this before. The beauty, not the beauty, the silver lining to this problem that we have today, Rod, is that this applies in 2008. It wasn't very much an American-based issue, right? That's spread around the world. Today, everyone is like this. This is the whole freaking planet, right? In Australia, rent's due. In Canada, rent's due. In Mexico, rent's due. Like if you're a real estate owner in those countries, you still got the same issues as what we've got here. So we're all going to be at the starting blocks together. How we get out of those starting blocks, both as local cities that you've invested in, as a country, as a human race, is going to determine how quickly we can get back to some sort of normalcy. I do think that this public health issue has completely sideswiped a lot of people, and has brought a new element of, when we look forward, you look at all the models and the history of peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs. This is going to add a trough, but it wasn't necessarily systemic related. So that's going to add another wrinkle to how we move forward in investing and how we have contingency plans to make sure that we are prepared next time, because there will be a next time. Let's not forget about that. There will be another pandemic for sure. So yeah, there's going to be opportunities. You've got to keep your eyes, your head on your shoulders at the same time as well.
Yeah. Well, listen, brother, it's really been a treat to see you again. It's been way too long, and I'm very grateful to have you on the show. And I look forward to hopefully connecting once people can actually shake hands again.
Exactly, well, mate. Look, I appreciate being asked back on, and you do a great job, and just I wish you all the luck. So
thank you, buddy. It's good to see you. Take care. Bye now.
Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws.